I didn't have the camera on, but there was a big GNR police checkpoint there. They were checking everybody's trunks, cars, papers, everything, right at the bottom where my house is. So maybe there's smuggling or who knows what. Something going on though, because they have a serious police checkpoint there. Anyway, sorry I didn't video that. But so what I'm saying is that these folks are very well aware of the risks of climate change and nuclear proliferation. They don't want that, you know? They're also figuring out that war, although lucrative, may not be the best occupation. And I call it war. I mean, honestly, today, what use is it really? Ginning up all these conflicts and sending special forces in to do things. It's a useless job, or it should be a useless job, like a clerk at in an investment bank should be. Chris Hedges talked a lot about how people going to Yale or Pitt or wherever, USC, when they're getting trained at the university, they're getting trained to fit into a certain culture. And so once you're trained to fit into that, you believe in it, right? And then I think, some players are thinking, well, we need a bunch of useless jobs to keep the plebs going, or universal basic income or something. And maybe now, because they're aware of all these risks, in particular climate change, they're going, even that's not sustainable. Just paying the plebs or giving them a dividend on the creative energy of the whole society, we're not going to go down that route because we like being elite. We like having graduated from Yale or Rutgers or wherever, Cambridge, Oxford. And we like being players. We were brought up to be competitive, to kick ass and take names, to be better than the other guy. This is the thing. Everyone's always comparing themselves to somebody else, right? Which is why you can't support your friends, because in the group, unless you're in a small town or some other culture, you're thinking, well, I can't really support this guy too much because it might get out that I think he's better than me. So, things like that. Rivalrous. Intensely competitive. Jealous. Wanton. Greedy. And they are, business is sophisticated. They do know how to get us addicted to everything, because that's the best product, is when you're addicted to a consumable. So, but they're thinking maybe this consumer society thing's not going to work because of the sixth extinction, because of rapid climate change, because of these serious existential threats that we're facing. They're probably thinking, it's not going to work. So how do we get rid of the plebs? I'm not saying that the coronavirus was that. I think it was just... Here's another thing I have to put in here, is that the gamers, the people that went to these universities and got trained to fit into this system, this operating system that we have now, geopolitically, globally, these folks, part of the game theoretic, game A, is to play out scenarios and see who wins. War games and so on. What if we do this? What if that happens? What do we have to do to prepare? What kind of weapons do we need? What kind of vaccines do we need? What kind of drugs do we need? How can we make money on these drugs in pharmaceutical industry or whatever? And they're gaming it out, and they get together, they do it all the time. It's not secret. Everybody knows. There's plenty of video on YouTube and everywhere, white papers and PDFs, studies. All these NGOs and organizations are put together to service these games, these scenarios. And one of them has been, for decades, the coronavirus thing. What happens? What do we need? How can we profit from it? If this happens, a bat virus, what do we do? And who's going to profit from it? You want to be close to the money. You want to be first at the opportunity, the Cantillon effect. So you're playing out these scenarios. They do it all the time. They did it in 2019. They did it in 2016. So it's just normal. It flows right out of the logic of the system. There's nothing unusual about it at all. And I'm going to turn around. I'm not going to go to this village. And they get a lot of intelligence, information from this. And the CIA does it all the time. What is the product of the CIA? It's intelligence. They give that product to the government or to other organizations that are playing the game. And the intelligence helps them play it better. They've gamed out some scenarios and they understand that, when this happens, we're going to need that. Somebody's going to have to make it. Somebody's going to have to profit from it. And so on and so forth. And they figure it out. So when the emergency happens, whether it's 911 or COVID-19, they're ready to go into gear anyway. Because they've been gaming it for years or decades. What happens if China rises? What happens if they get this or that, or cyber war? So when it happens, there's no mystery that somehow they were prepared for it. And when I'm talking about they, I'm talking about people with power, agency, people who can actually do something about it. Corporations and individuals in corporations and organizations that can do something. So it flows right out. It's nothing conspiratorial about it. And these people, if you go to a club, you behave the way the club wants you to behave because, they have rules. You know what I mean? If you have an accent, if you talk like democracy will never come to Hong Kong as long as the CCP is in control. Where did you get that accent? Did you wake up one morning and say, I choose to talk like that? I want these rules and those rules, and I want this culture. Very few people get the luxury of having that kind of choice. Well, I was born in the United States, but I went to England and I became very British, to the point where nobody could tell that I wasn't British. And then I moved to Japan and people thought I was Japanese, even though I'm a Caucasian, because my manners and my language was so Japanese that they couldn't tell that I wasn't Japanese. They thought for sure I was adopted by a Japanese family and I was learning my Yakuza ninja skills. But I hope you get what I'm saying. So when you talk about opportunistically taking advantage of the COVID crisis and then putting everything in gear to make sure that you profit from it, it's like The Big Short. You're smart enough to see it coming and you take advantage of the situation. You don't ring the alarm bells and try to change the game. You've been waiting your whole life for the 2008 crisis. And you're going to make a killing. So when Rumsfeld and Cheney and whatever do their thing, they believe in the game, man. They believe in playing this game. They think it's righteous. They think it's moral. They think it's ethical. They believe in it. That's what's so fucking scary about it. So if you have another idea and you're from Ecuador or some other country and you decide you're gonna live a different way and it threatens the business, then they say it threatens our security. Americans are in trouble. I'm fighting for the Americans. No, they're really fighting to win the game and to make a buck. But they have to get the support of the plebs. Now, here's where I'm thinking that maybe they know that this game is up. And maybe this quote-unquote reset, their words, not mine, is really serious this time. And they're thinking, well, how can we keep our game going with all these fucking useless plebs around who need jobs and health care and relative, more or less, equality and justice and hell, yeah, God, you know, these fucking plebs. We got a job, we got a game to play, and these motherfuckers are getting in the way. And boy, Game of Thrones must have been so much more fun when there were fewer people on the planet. Oi, you went the different way. Huh? Just thought I'd go up and film this industrial park. Why are you here? So they say to themselves, well, fuck. You know, maybe we're going to have to play hardball this time. People, and it's not that they're deciding to kill the plebs. They're just saying, we got to control these people because things are out of control. So let's do the health passports and let's catastrophize a normal coronavirus that was probably developed in a lab because they were gaming out the scenario of what if a bad coronavirus hits and how do we save the people. But really they're thinking, how do I get grants for my research? How do I get investment for my vaccines? They're playing the game. It's normal. And then when they do the gain of function research and they create this bizarre thing, and it does get out of the lab, why wouldn't it? Accidents happen, everybody knows that. Murphy's Law and whatnot. So it does happen, they're ready for it. They've been gaming it. That's why they did the research in the lab that got out. It wasn't a conspiracy. They didn't decide that the population's too large, and you know, they have other mechanisms that we play that I don't think they want to kill people. They think war is really important. You know, they were trained to do that at their Ivy League universities. Or, you know, Dad was saying there are two kinds of people, wolf and sheep. Which one are you going to be? Well, I'm going to be a sniper. I'm going to go to frickin' Iraq and Afghanistan and shoot people between the eyes. Because I ain't no damn sheep. You know, you don't have to be rich. Everyone's indoctrinated. Everyone's been programmed and trained. If you can sit back and say, ask yourself, what would I be like if I had been born in another country? Choose one. And if you know enough about that country and culture, you can come up with an idea. Here's one of these industrial parks that are scattered all over Portugal, where you can rent a warehouse or whatever and do your business thing. They're everywhere. So you have a beautiful agricultural countryside, and then you have industrial parks. I think it's cool. So Um, so that's what I think is going on. People have been trained to play. You know, you don't have enough money to go to college. You think maybe joining the Army or the Marines or something would be a good option for you, and hopefully you'll maybe get some more education and have a better opportunities in life, and then you get thrown into the meat grinder and have your psyche torn to pieces. You weren't ready for it. War. And so it's kind of tragic, but it's not your fault that you became an army man, and maybe it worked out for you, maybe it didn't, but you're going to be trained to be a soldier, and you need to be trained to be a soldier if you're going to be a soldier, and you're going to fit in and do your job, or you're going to be, you know, court-martialed and sent off. So there are incentives in the structure, in the system, and we must be mindful of what those are. You have to ask yourself, what's incentivizing me? What's pushing me? What's motivating me? Ask. What would happen if something else was motivating me? What would happen if I was motivated by anything else? I'm not going to put words in your mouth. Just pick something you love. What if that motivated me? What would my life be like? Think of alternatives. What if we had a Game B-esque kind of situation going in our community? What would that be like? Where would the incentives be then? Would it be an extra $20 in my pocket, or would it be a pat on the back, a smile, a laugh? The pride of having accomplished something with people in concert with your community. You know, for those of you that think the financial incentive is the only incentive in the whole wide world, can't you imagine? Can you look at your life and ask yourself if you've been incentivized by anything else in your whatever number of years you've been alive? Of course, right? And there are incentives that are more thoughtful, like wanting to marry a particular girl, or wanting to get laid, or wanting to be the best squash player you can be, whatever. Why do you want that? Yeah, you can come up with an answer, and maybe it's the right one. And if it is, that's great. But what's happening now is the opportunists have ramped up the action of the propaganda machines and the marketing machines and the meme machines for their own opportunistic reasons, and they're making people get at each other, because having a scapegoat, having another to fight against, is very powerful emotional stuff for human beings. Motivation. And so that's working on us. You know? You don't know what Antifa is. You don't know what the Proud Boys are. You know? You don't know what a Democrat is or a Republican. You don't know shit. You don't know what a RNA virus is. You don't know how a hydrogen bomb works. You don't know how your smartphone works. You don't know about addiction. You don't know shit, basically. Unless you're making an effort to know about stuff, then you don't know anything. Just admit it. And if you think something's important, take the time to figure it out. I'll go see what this farm is. I mean, I hope you can take a chance with a thought journey and try to look at things and ask those questions. Look at things in a different way and ask those kinds of questions. Don't let your emotions be toyed with. Exercise some willpower over your emotions and thought. If whatever tradition you're in, and if that informs that willpower and helps you, use it. I'm interested in skepticism. I've been interested in Asian philosophy for a long time. I like philosophy. I learn from everywhere. I loved what the Z-Dog said on the video today. He goes, I'm in the alt-middle, which means I'm looking for truth wherever I can find it. Not from some ideological extreme, but just wherever I can find it. And he's talking from a science-based perspective as well. But I like that, alt-middle. Imagine that. I'm not going to get all ginned up, riled up. I'm going to show some self-control, some maturity, and I'm going to look for the truth, and I'm going to be strong enough to accept it when I find it. And I'm going to change my opinion when I encounter evidence that compels me to do so. Simple shit. So many people know about this, but not enough. At least 50% of the global population should understand this and live it, endeavor to live it, right? Ooh, that's not going to work. Now I'm just running around in circles, but that's fun. Rua de Santo Antonio. He's a big one, Santo Antonio. So, another little chapel. So yeah, if you understand this and can practice this kind of maturity of thought, then what I'm really hoping is that you'll communicate it to people you know in a nice, kind, open-hearted, sincere way, and help them to get on this road of alt-middle, looking for truth wherever you can find it, and get off this stupid ideological gravy train that's batting you about like some helpless rag doll, screwing with your delicate emotions, making you depressed, making you feel like you're nothing, like you don't have enough. Bullshit. Look around you. Make a connection. If only with your true self, if you can just try to endeavor to go towards that self. Because this has to change. So in my world, the think global and act local. You're going to want to play around with these game B ideas and see if you can't do that in your community in some way. Because we all have to, on a micro level, become strong enough to boycott this stupid fucking system. Because it was from the beginning unsustainable, and it is even more unsustainable than it was. Every year, we do get closer to catastrophe. And this isn't the catastrophe of myth, where Zeus does it to you and you have no power. This is a catastrophe of our own making, and we have the power to change it. We really do. So instead of demonstrating and getting all pissed off, let people know at work, at the cafe, who you are and that you're not going to put up with this bullshit anymore. And that you'd like to know if anyone wants to get together and do something positive. And just start small, lower your expectations, get something done. Well, I'm not finding my way to the place I want to go. Plenty of dead ends, and that's how things work. When Nassim Taleb's talking about entrepreneurs, he's saying they take risks, they make mistakes, they lose money. This is a good thing. You should be ashamed if you think it's not. It is. What he's also saying is there should be skin in the game. In other words, if you take advantage of the system or people, if you don't take responsibility for your actions and failures, then you're wrong. You should be punished or sanctioned in some way. But we shouldn't punish you for failing, for running into a dead end, because that's how you create your internal GPS. That's how you create your map within yourself of the environment in which you live, by making mistakes and learning from them, by losing money and starting another business, having the guts to say, I can find out why I failed and I can do better next time. I know I can. Let's make no mistake about that. And entrepreneurs, you know, some of these billionaires I talk about, they were able to do that. They have talent. They do work hard. They did get a little bit lucky. Doesn't make them evil. It's when they drink the Kool-Aid and they think that they can decide for everyone else what's best because they're successful. When that arrogance kicks in and the narcissism, it starts to become pathological, and they start to become sociopathic, and they even get psychopathic. Plenty of evidence of this throughout history. You weren't born a bad guy or a bad girl, but something happened, changed you. Maybe you were abused, or maybe you just got too much power and it corrupted you. Go ahead and fail. Go ahead and get wildly successful. My thinking is nobody needs $1 billion. So in the parameters of life, can you have enough to be wildly, wildly rich and happy, but not at the expense of everybody else in the community? Now, they used to have potlatches in the old days, Northwest Indians, and they would give away all their wealth to the rest of the group, and everybody did it, so it all balanced out. My thinking is, if you made 20 million bucks, you should be taxed like crazy after that. And of course, if there's good governance, if the money is going to be used well. But nobody needs $1 trillion. Because what happens is you can start giving that to organizations that you found, and you can skew the evolution of society because of your own biases. That should be very easy to figure out without having to get worried about being a conspiracy person. because you have more agency, more power. You can skew the game, corrupt it, even though you might be doing it for the right reasons. That doesn't matter. There have to be parameters, rules to a game, otherwise nobody's going to play, right? If somebody keeps cheating, you're going to walk off the court. You're not going to play anymore. And that's what we should be doing. We should be saying, we're not going to play by these rules anymore. We have better ideas. Come and play this new game with me. I think it's going to be great. You're going to get what you need and what you want. It's in line with your values. It's in line with your wishes and hopes. Come on, let's play this new thing, shall we? Why not? What if? Imagine that. You know? When I suggest that people read these historians and scientists and so on, who are writing surveys, broad surveys of their domain of expertise, written in layman's language so that anyone can read it, so that you get a sense of the terrain, of the environment in which you've been living and you've been brought up in. And you can answer more questions. Why? Why like this? Why like that? Why not like this? Why not like that? And it feeds your creativity and imagination. You're able to say, well, that's cool. That was interesting in that time and context. But what if this? Imagine that. Counterintuitive scenarios and so on. You become more creative. And we all operate under constraints. Constraints help us be more creative. So you don't like this mask, invent a different one that you like, that does the same thing, reduces the viral load that you get and give when you're out in public in certain situations, so that your immune system will have a better chance of fighting it off and you won't have to go to the hospital. How about that? What's the big deal? What if, imagine that, we could do things differently? We could do something. I mean, geoengineering is really, really hard. And generally when human beings get involved with complex systems, they complicate things and they fuck things up. Because there's no way they can understand all the variables in a complex system. But we may have to put mirrors on the Indian Ocean to reflect some sunlight and try to preserve some ice. Because once it goes, it doesn't come back, like turning up a thermostat in your house. Oh, it's getting a bit hot, let's turn the air conditioning off. It doesn't work like that. It could take decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, depending on how far we go down this slide. It's not a thermostat, but it could buy us some time. Maybe the human race can thrive with 4 degrees C above the 1750 baseline. Who knows? We've never been there. Human beings haven't had to try to deal with that. Maybe there will be a way to grow food when the traditional ways of growing food are not possible anymore. Maybe. Give those kids a chance. I know you don't give a damn about the future because you're going to be dead, but maybe you do care about your grandchildren. to come to be. It's natural for you to do so. You're an animal. You want to reproduce. You want your species to continue. It's kind of baked in, isn't it? The selfish gene and whatnot. So let's go and do those projects and demonstrate to one another and to each other and to ourselves that yes, it can be done. We can play a different game. We don't have to go to school and be taught to eat someone's liver. The Wolf of Wall Street. We can play football within the rules, fairly, well refereed, and have a great time. Take that risk. Maybe I'll break my collarbone and smash my knee. But it's a fun game. I love it. I want to play. And I'll get compensated and rewarded for it. You know? Maybe we don't need as many consumer products as we thought we needed. And we don't need as much stuff as we needed. Maybe we can buy the best whatnot ever made and it lasts for 30 years. And maybe we can appreciate that because our relationships and our cage or our bubble is so much nicer to live in than the other one was, that we don't really need a new vacuum cleaner every fucking year or a new smartphone every damn year. Or maybe we can have warehouses of tools and we can borrow, check them out like a library when we need them. And everybody doesn't need a backhoe or an earth mover, but everybody needs a hammer and a screwdriver. Okay, you got your hammer and your screwdriver. Good for you. You got your plates, your cooking gear. But you don't need all this other stuff. It's built to last, right? The computer can be upgraded. The innovations are built in. And people who do more work get compensated better. I mean, at a higher premium in whatever ways. You have to think about currency. What kind of currencies are you using? It's not always just a fiat dollar bill. It can be something else. But we can figure out a way to compensate people according to what they've contributed. They get a little bit more. There's no doubt that some people can sing a hell of a lot better than me. I'm not so insane. You know, it's funny when you watch these singing shows and the person comes on and they sincerely want to compete, but they just can't sing. One wonders why they thought they could sing. But anyway, I know I can't sing as good as Pavarotti did. Wildlife a lot when I'm out in the morning. That's beautiful squirrel. But so you do what you're competitive at. People like your wool knit sweaters better than somebody else's for some reason. And one of the rewards is just being popular that way. Another one is you might get compensated a little more for your sweater than another person. I mean, how many t-shirts do we need to signify, to signal what we believe in or advertise our business? Maybe there will be a time when a cobbler will matter again, and a blacksmith and a metalsmith and a cook and a shaman or a priest. Those days might come back and they might be good days. And we might not have the colonialism and the game A bullshit, the slaughter, the genocide, the disrespect, the hatred, the war. Yeah, we can do that. As I said, if your game, if your system solves those basic problems, then I'm saying go for it. I'm not going to worry about the details. That's for you and yours to do. This is the only game in town, my friends. It's absolutely the only game. And if a bunch of us don't start doing it worldwide, in China also, in India also, in Bangladesh, in Russia, in the Ukraine, in Poland, in Hungary, in Chad, in Ethiopia, Sudan, Israel, Qatar. That's right, people. Global, local. If a bunch of us don't start doing that right now, then this game is up. And this time, the reset will be ugly. Aight? William T. out.